On this 19th day of May, I greet you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. As your pastor, it's my privilege to deal with more uncertainty than anyone else in our entire organization. I suspect that many of you would say, well, that's right, that's your job, that's what we pay you to do. I want you to know that our staff and our key elected leaders know that I don't ever abdicate the responsibility that I have to deal with the combined uncertainty of every program and every ministry venture that this congregation will ever have while I serve in this position. I need you to know that I understand that that's the price, that's the cost of increased leadership responsibility. And I proudly accept that responsibility here at St. John's. When I was called to develop a congregation in Nitropoli, a congregation that you know as New Life Evangelical Lutheran Church, one not only where I served as its founding pastor, but one of our pastors here at St. John's, Scott Lingenfelter, served for over a decade. I want you to know that there was a turning point in that ministry, and it all came together one evening when that founding group of leaders became absolutely convinced that educational programming needed to be built around a network of small group ministries that would have to meet in homes because, if you recall, we didn't have a church building to go to in Nitropoli. And if it hadn't been for St. John's and a bunch of other congregations around the synod, even after 8 years, it would have been likely that that congregation would have never had its first building. Now, for those group of leaders to commit to a small group ministry in homes, that was completely different than their upbringing. All of those leaders had been experienced in church, but their church experiences had been Sunday church school programming. Their adult ministries, their Bible studies, everything took place under that Sunday church school programming model. We thought that we would get some pushback. We thought that people might balk at meeting in others' homes, but in fact, the exact opposite happened. When we made a decision, when we came together and in a less than diplomatic way of approach, and again, you've got to remember, you've got to understand that just like the first 5 years of ministry I have here with you, with those folks, those people were my friends, like you're my friends, and those people had supported me like you've been supportive. Those folks had sacrificed their time and financial resources like you have sacrificed time and finances to ensure a good start in here, to ensure a good continuation of our church. But it came down to a quick prayer and a statement. After tonight, we're not going to discuss if any longer. We're going to move forward. And from that time on, it was my conviction. I was convinced that we need to focus our energy on how we move forward and not if we're going to move forward. There were many unanswered questions. No one in that ministry had been a part of a church that had been built on small groups. We had a lot to learn then, just like we have a lot to learn now here at St. John's. But I said to them that evening, feel free to question our implementation, but not our direction. After tonight, we move onward. That was 30 years ago. The men and women who were in attendance that evening became the champions of small group ministry. And after I left that congregation to move on to the next congregation I would serve, they kept growing and growing and growing because they weren't dependent on anyone. They were interdependent. They needed and they knew they needed each other. Were the members and leaders of that congregation certain of the outcome? Absolutely not. But the goal of leadership, I learned then and I know now, is not to eradicate uncertainty, but to navigate it. And that's my privilege. And I find myself here at St. John's once again in that place because we don't know what it's going to look like when we come back into this congregation. We have no idea when we're going to be back in this congregation's facilities. And we shouldn't be all too worried about it. We should be concerned about how we take care of one another in spite of no building. So we've got to get on our telephones. We've got to continue to do Zoom meetings. And we really do need to develop small groups as we move forward. Maybe this summer we'll have small groups. We'll have pockets of homes. We'll have 20 different families saying, we'll welcome 6 people to our property and observing social distancing. We'll do Bible study together. And in that way, we will grow. I can guarantee you that there will be people from other congregations that will be listening to this silly little MailChimp today, but they won't see it as silly and they won't push back. They'll take this idea and they'll run with it because they will have confidence that small group ministries where people care for people not only is the future, it's the present. It's what we need to be doing right now. Think about where we would be at St. John's if we already had strong small group ministry. Think about how this church wouldn't skip a beat because everyone would be taken care of. There are very few nights that I go to sleep where I'm not restless and where I'm not struggling to drift off to a peaceful night's sleep. I do trust God, but I'm human and I worry about you and I worry about who isn't getting the care they need. I also worry because I'm one person and I can't meet everyone's needs. And frankly, I don't want to. I want to make sure that your needs are met by developing a group of leaders who will take care of you and how you will receive them and you will take care of one another. People caring for people. It starts with small groups and it starts with you. Be blessed.